So, dear friends, warmly welcome to this session on Alpine economies at 2 degrees Celsius. This is a really important and strategic, not only topic in terms of risk, but also in terms of need for investment and effort. So it's great that the World Economic Forum is now taking on this as a key topic also for the longer term, hopefully, depending on how the reactions is in this session. We know that the Alpine areas, glaciers, snow, across the entire planet is really at the front line. I would even call it one of the ground zeros in the Earth system. The topic here on Alpine economies at 2 degrees is of course set because even though we are at 1.48 degrees Celsius 2023, we know that the high altitude, particularly northern latitude Alpine areas have already reached 2 degrees Celsius. We know that that is driven by the transgression of planetary boundaries, all the greenhouse gases, but also the changes in Alpine ecosystems across the world. Mountains are critical both for Earth system stability, because we know that white surfaces, as on this screen, reflect back in the order of 90% of incoming heat back to space. So glaciers, ice sheets, snow cover is a cooling system on the planet. But we also know that glaciers in particular are stable freshwater suppliers for, well, over 2 billion people if you look at the big water tower over the Himalayas. But it's also a fundamental part of the economies and societies, everything from which we'll be discussing here, from the skiing and sport industry all the way to local economies across countries from Switzerland to Nepal, the US, and South America. This panel we have today is therefore an integrated panel to address this, both the risks, but also what are the key priorities in terms of keeping the stability in Alpine glaciers, and what does it mean for economies. To run this session, we have a superb panel that will join me here for a discussion. After that panel, we'll have Johan Elias to give us a final remarks on the outcomes. Johan is the president of the International Ski and Snowboard Federation. But no further ado, I'd like to welcome the panelists onto the stage so we can kick off the discussion. And Urs Lehmann, if you join me on the frame, president of Swiss Ski Switzerland and one of the champions in downhill skiing. I think we'll invite all the panelists on board, actually. So please, Monica, as well. Monica Medina, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Wildlife Conservation Society, and Nirvana Chaudhary, Managing Director of the Chaudhary Group, coming from Nepal to us, but also one of the World Economic Forum Young Global Leaders. So welcome, and great to have you here. And let's jump right into the discussion. And I'd like to start with you, Urs. I mean, you have such a long experience both in the sports area, but also now coordinating the Swiss Ski Federation. What's your diagnostic in terms of the risks to the ski industry from what you're seeing in terms of the changes on snow and glaciers from your perspective?
Well, let me phrase it directly. I see a huge risk and I see a huge impact. But to begin, let's talk about the skiing industry, what it is. So us, or me as a former racer, or now the Swiss Ski Federation, we are one of the minor stakeholders within the skiing industry. There's ski manufacturers, apparel manufacturers. I even ski the ski resorts, mountain railways, and even ski schools within that skiing system. And all are affected. All are affected. And in a country like here in Switzerland, the mountain areas, mountain regions are even bigger. They're substantial. They're also a substantial part of our economic. So in the mountain areas, the skiing industry is taking care of about more than 10% of the GDP. And it's a 5 billion value that's created every year. So this is a huge and very important and a huge impact that we are living. But the phenomenon is not new for us. So the impact started decades ago already. So let's have a look at the past, at the present, and at the future. If I'm going back to the 1990s, that's when me as an athlete, I found out we had poor winters in the sense of snow, even no snow. Famous Lauberhorn event that we just had last weekend didn't take place. We had to go to other places that were higher, like Vesonon, like Leukerbad. We didn't know exactly why. Even the skiing industry, at the time they sold around 6 million pairs of ski every year. It went down within just a couple of years down to 3 million. And they were the first resorts that couldn't ski. So for us, it's not new. And out from there, let's say technical snow was born in the 90s. And innovation like rental stations for the skiing industries was born in the 1990s. So we were walking through this, these terms and impact for already 30 years. Where are we now? But at the time, it was about saving our industry, the industry and winter sports, because we didn't see the big picture. I think for the last couple of years, we have all seen the broader picture, the big picture, and the dimensions, what it is about, that we're talking about the climate change. And it's about saving the world, saving the mankind, if you want. And so that's a game changer for us. Are we doing good? So I would say we have to be fast, we have to be better. What do we have today? We are taking care of what we do with renewable energy. I just got an email earlier this morning down in Andorra. The fuel for the grooming machines is 90% out of renewable energies. This is news for us, but probably not a game changer that we want to talk about. If you take about the snowmaking machines, they're 10 times more efficient today as they used to be in the past. Lauberhorn took place, was a big event. So waste management is a big thing with 38,000 spectators up there. So, but I still think we are not good enough to overcome the hurdles to get to the 1.5 goal or even to the 2 goal, if you want. So to get there, we have to become better. And there I see 3 elements to adapt our strategies. A, it's data and technology. 2, it's collaboration. And 3, it's about leadership. If I'm talking about technology and data, and let me start with data. So what I learned here over the last couple of days, AI is getting ready. It's getting ready in the sense that we can predict the future. For us, it's important to adapt our strategy, to learn to see what the future 2040, even 2050 looks like, how the mountains are looking like, how the glaciers are looking like. So then we can work with the technologies. And then what is key for me, as I said, there's many stakeholders in the skiing industries, like I mentioned at the beginning. We have to collaborate. For the time being, each and every one is working in his space. That's what I'm at least feeling here in Switzerland. But we have to collaborate. And whenever you're collaborating, you need a leader. That's why I'm saying we need leadership. And leadership is key. Somebody has to take the thing in hands, like FIS did, for instance. I think Johan will talk about this. FIS just launched or published a so-called impact program, which is huge, saying taking the responsibility, taking the leadership. And we will follow it as a national federation. And that's it, being within our ecosystem, even in a broader system like in Switzerland, but somebody has to take the lead. That's how I see we have to move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Urs. Going directly to you then, Monica, to kind of make the link between the snow challenge with the biodiversity challenge. And I should have mentioned that in the introduction, but you'll probably emphasize it even further. I mean, what's so specific with mountains, given that they are at so many altitudes, is that it's disproportionately rich on biodiversity. And you've been part of basically helping the world get the global biodiversity framework in COP15 in Montreal. A great success, by the way. And now is the question to deliver it. How do you see the biodiversity loss challenge in the rapidly changing mountain environments?
Thank you, Johan, and it's a great honor to be on this panel with you and the other panelists. I will talk a little bit about, I'll take a step back and say, yes, nature is crucial for biodiversity. It's also crucial for our economies. 50% of GDP is dependent on nature, and it has to function. And in these high elevations or high latitude areas, the Arctic and Antarctic, we see rapidly changing conditions, twice as fast as other parts of the planet. And that causes an awful lot of human-wildlife conflict. And often these wildlife are already in danger. So I'll talk about the snow leopard as an example. We work with communities in Afghanistan and the Tibetan Plateau to try to avoid these human-wildlife conflicts because they need, these communities are small and they need to eat, and the wildlife comes and eats their livestock. And so we work hard with them to try to reduce those conflicts. And as the snow areas decrease, those conflicts increase. So we are working very hard to both keep the snow leopards safe and keep communities able to feed themselves. And as the snow shifts, we know that the conflict could be even greater, and we will have to up our efforts. Another place where we work similarly is in the Andes and northern Patagonia highlands, both in southern Chile and Argentina, where we work with goat and sheep herders to promote their coexistence with the region's unique wildlife, including the iconic guanaco and the Andean condor and the Andean cat. These are all iconic species. They aren't found anywhere else because of the unique nature of these biomes. So it is really, really important that we hold on to as many of them as we can, even while we know that communities need to be able to make a living. So we're working with the herders there to try and help them keep their flocks safe, and to help them bring these products to market, especially the ones that are sustainable, because they are not in conflict with those endangered and really iconic species. So we're working very hard in those places because they're getting drier. And it's harder for them to have water for these animals and for the communities. So our work is really at that epicenter of communities, economies, and wildlife, and trying to preserve all of them at the same time, because they're all critical to having a healthy planet. And that 30% goal of protecting 30% of the planet by 2030 is really crucial, and it depends on us looking at these places that are most at risk and trying to do what we can to conserve them.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll come back to both yours and Monica on what you think are the economic policy implications of turning this around. But I'd like to bring you in, Nirvana, at this stage directly. I mean, you come from Nepal, you come from the third pole on planet Earth, the Arctic, Antarctica, and the Himalayas. A stable Tibetan plateau is the freshwater tap for over 2 billion people when it operates according to its natural cycles of slowly releasing fresh water during the summer periods and then freezing it and storing it during the winter periods. And tell us a bit about how you see the changes there.
Well, firstly, again, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. You know, I was listening to Urs talking about the skiing, tourism through skiing activities, and it sort of felt so euphoric, and I went into a dream state of when my country will get into that era as well. But I think in Nepal, you know, as you rightly mentioned, we have no choice, but Nepal is the custodian of the Himalayan region. It has to be the custodian of it, not only because of the population that live around it, which is in excess of over 250 million people, and providing water to 800 million people, and like you said, close to 2 billion people downstream. So I think while the temperature change globally is increasing by 0.03%, in the Himalayan region it's increasing by 0.053%. So we are already seeing that at this rate, by 2100, 37% of these glaciers will be melting. And the major effect will go downstream to the small farmers. You know, we can talk about the flora and the biodiversity today. For thousands of years, Nepal's got flora and natural herbs that have been used as medicinal products, raw materials, which have been exported globally. We can talk about the energy transition. You know, Nepal's been bestowed with having the potential to produce 110,000 megawatt, but we are only producing 2,500, 3,000 megawatt. Just the India-Nepal border requires 30,000 megawatt. Just Bangladesh requires 10,000 megawatt. That's gas-based power to be converted to renewable. India's coal-based power to be converted to renewable. So, I mean, the role of private sector and public government becomes very, very important for harnessing and making sure the energy transition happens really quickly. And, you know, I've been really lucky to be meeting with fellow YGLs, young global leaders, and just in very basic conversations, I'm engaging with an individual who is doing a lot of work on protecting forests, the biodiversity. I'm having conversations with another gentleman who is talking about monitoring, using technology, the glacier meltdown. You know, so I think the energy transition, the flora, biodiversity, the water management is the key to our economy, and also digitization. I think we need to start thinking an evolution from going from road to cloud. You know, when I'm coming to Davos, and I'm missing home, but not home today. I'm missing home, which was 15 years ago, where we too had a lot of snow coming on. But today I just see brown mountains everywhere. You know, and it's visibly very traumatizing. Visibly, we every day see it there, and we can see every year the snow-capped mountains becoming less and less snow, and we can see floods coming up. So definitely, there's a lot of very challenging. But at the end of the day, I think the solution and the dialogue needs to happen from Nepal, because Nepal is at the cusp of the entire Himalayan region. So later on, I can definitely share with you, us from a private sector's perspective, what all we are doing in these areas in our own humble ways, you know, collaborating with local communities, livelihood. Like I mentioned, there's 240 million people living in that area. One of the biggest problems they go through is malnutrition and stunting. You know, we need to work on with the government for coming up with the right policies for energy transition. We need to start, we need to know that there are more people with smartphones than bank accounts in emerging countries like ours. So how do we get, you know, actual physical infrastructure of roads and banks, etc., to get them into e-governance, into e-banking? So, you know, we need to start thinking about all that. And Europe's done this really, really well. We need to learn from some of the best practices and bring it down to the Himalayan region.
Yeah, thanks. And so then jumping into, so we're here in Davos at the World Economic Forum, and what are the key asks to world leaders from policy, but also for economics? And I'm thinking, Urs, I mean, what's from the racing and skiing, the whole sports industry, basically. And just to say that I'm myself a passionate skier, certainly not a racing skier, but I've seen the retreat of the glaciers in Switzerland, just almost crying when coming up in Verbier into the higher levels, and just seeing how things are changing so much that you basically have to change the lift system even to be able to move around these days. And what's your advice to economy and policy? Is it mitigation, or is it adaptation, or is it both? Or how do you see the Swiss Ski Federation actively try to lobby for somehow handling this situation, or where are you there?
Well, let me start again from the back. Where are we? I think we just started and just at the beginning, because there's so much to do. So what are we doing basically? We have the events, and we have the training and traveling throughout the world. So that's our two main activities that we have. So we have to make sure that we take care of our events, like the Lauberhorn, like Adelboden that we just had. And again, without technical snow, Adelboden wouldn't have happened, not only this year, but also last year. So that is key. But it's always the way, how are we taking care? Waste management is a big thing. If you have a spot with 30, 40,000 people, waste management becomes key. So we're really collaborating with our stakeholders, the organizers of the events, making sure they're using sustainable materials, taking care, etc. When we come to the glaciers, as you were saying, or even skiing areas, we have to work closer together. In the old days, like you were saying, we had in Switzerland 4 or 5 glaciers you could ski on in summer. You don't have to go far. It was over in Laux. We were skiing 15 years back, and now we have 2 glaciers in the Saas-Fee and Zermatt, and even one of them, if they don't start with technical snow on the glacier, my prediction is within 5 or 6 years it becomes critical to ski up on that glacier. So then we have one, and everybody wants to train in summer, even from US and from the east. So it becomes crucial that we take care. There are new technologies like snow farming. Here in Davos, they're very far with snow farming. The key is the efficiency. We are at the rate of about 50, 60, 70%. We have to increase the efficiency of snow farming and so on and so forth. There's hundreds of things we have to do. That's why I'm saying we have to understand how do the mountains, the glaciers look in 2050, and then we have to adapt our strategies.
Do you see yourself as the president of the Swiss Ski Federation as an advocate for more rapid decarbonization of the Swiss economy, for example? Yes, absolutely. Within Switzerland, like Johann is for us, for the federations, I see ourselves and myself in the responsibility to do so. So that's why we just launched a couple of months ago. We want to have a vision of snow sports in Switzerland in 2050, where we work together with the government, where we work together even with the Swiss snow sports, etc. That is key. And again, somebody has to take the lead. I don't know if it's us being the right leader, whether it's the government or somebody else. This hasn't been defined. Yeah. But we want to jump on, we want to work together, and then somebody has to raise the hand and say, yes, I'll take the head and I'm going to be the leader. But for sure we have to. And Monica, are you optimistic that the Global Biodiversity Framework will be taken seriously and implemented?
I am very optimistic about it, but I do think it helps when famous people like skiers and some of the Olympic athletes have actually taken to talking about saving snow as an important way to communicate to the public about climate change and about nature. People will, I think, take the word of some of these trusted folks more than maybe even government. I also think, building on your point about technology, that using models and what people call AI, but I think of as weather and climate models to actually better predict these things so that we can prepare and be better able to adapt. I don't think you can choose between adaptation and mitigation. And in the nature space, we just have to keep working to try to hold on to as much as we can, because the more we hold on to, the more climate shocks they can take without being lost for good. And that means extinctions, which are forever, or the loss of, the extinction of glaciers, if you will.
Exactly. A super short answer to a very difficult question, Ivana, if I may. So you described the whole Pakistan, India, Nepalese challenges around energy. Do you see using snow and ice could be like a diplomatic icebreaker for some of the diplomatic relations in your region?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, once we are, if the borders don't remain because of the implications on climate change, snow and water, yeah, what are we even talking about anything else? So I think once we put the climate change urgency as a center stage, we'll be able to, I think, very easily talk about the issues you're talking about, cross-border geopolitical issues. And that's what I'm saying, that, you have a vast amount of economic, political, and social issues, not only centered around Nepal and the neighboring countries, but around the entire Himalayan region, where Nepal needs to be put as the center stage, as the custodian of having these dialogues. And that's why, one of our strongest initiatives from our foundation is bringing together like-minded people who've done it right, like-minded people who've got the right policies, bring them under one umbrella, because it's not a Nepal problem. It's going to be a global problem, more pertinent to that region. So we are really looking forward to the Himalayan Climate Change Summit, and everyone who's present here are experts, are, I'm sure, people who are worrying about this, and we'd love to extend an invitation to all of you to come participate.
Thanks a lot, and thanks to the panel. A warm applaud to, so that is Ivana Chaudhary, Urs Lehmann, and Monica Medina. Thanks a lot. And with that, I'm really proud to invite Johan Elias, who is president of the International Federation for Snowboard and Skiing.